He's got to win a national championship with Rutgers. All right.
No, he's got important business.
It's not going to win itself.
The Chiefs are one of 5 undefeated teams remaining in the National Football League. They are surviving. They are involved in another game this week against a key AFC West divisional opponent. Let's break it down.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Wednesdays are Matter Days here on the KC Laboratory, presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our incredible partners in Possible. I'm with Maddie Lane, Matt Hamilton. I am Matt Swanson on Wednesdays. Excited to get you ready for Chiefs Chargers. Maddie Lane, what's good, buddy?
I mean, it's all good. I am impressed that you've been able to keep up the same intro for Matter Days every single time. And I hope that it just continues. Like, I hope you never slip, because the moment you slip, I'm coming for you. I'm going to let you know. I'm going to let everyone know that you messed up one time. No, as always, we're happy to be joined by Matt Hamilton here. And like I have done the other weeks, we are going to ask Hamilton, what were your thoughts on the Chiefs' glorious victory over the Atlanta Falcons as they now remain undefeated with a perfect 3-0?
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with the ability to stop the run. We talked about how huge that was going to be with Bijan Robinson on the other side, and they really kept him under control. And obviously, the key play of the game on that 4th and 1, Bolton's able to knife back there, Chenal's able to get there, and they're able to make the critical stop at the critical moment. So really impressed with that. The offense still has some things to figure out, though. I was Mahomes was not happy with his performance, and when you really dig into the tape, there are a lot of reasons he shouldn't be happy with it. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more today, but I guess that's the positive it is Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not worried about him over the long haul. He's going to figure those things out. It is very fixable stuff, but it's stuff that can't continue if they're gonna if they're gonna three-peat. He has to clean things up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And we can just jump right into the offensive side of the football in our preview for Chiefs Chargers playing at 3:25 on Sunday afternoon. And yeah, I think it starts with a lot of what you just talked about there, Hamilton. There's a lot to work on this team. And I think to a degree, I think Andy Reid likes it like that. I think he prefers this to happen in wins. He doesn't. I mean, I don't think he wants a ton of these messages to be sent in big stretches of losses and all that kind of stuff. But coming out of Sunday Night Football with yet another victory, and again being one of the 5 teams that's undefeated in the National Football League left is still big. But when you look at the inconsistencies on the offensive side of the football, there are plenty of little things. I think the building blocks are there for this offense to be elite. I really do. I think you see little moments and little flashes and little things here or there. And you've seen, I think, a sample size of Patrick Mahomes being really, really good at a lot of different things on a football field. It's just a matter of them all coming together at the same time. And right now, it doesn't feel like this offense is firing on all cylinders. It does feel like there's a lot left to be desired on the field. Matthew Lane.
Yeah, I want to say before we dig into it, we got to talk about the Chargers. Okay, one, Craig's great. Thank you for stopping by, Craig. We appreciate you watching. You need to change your name next time you comment on my show, though. Two, we have to talk about the Chargers. Who's playing, right? Like, is Bosa going to play? Is Joey Bosa even going to play in this game? Derwin James, it sounds like he's suspended. I know he's appealing, but I think it got upheld.
Suspended.
The appeal, the appeal was denied.
Yeah. So, darn, well, crazy how that worked. I guess the check went through. But yeah, so I mean, that's going to be the most important part, I think, of anything in the game preview idea is who's going to play for the Chargers. Obviously, on the offensive side, we don't know the status of Herbert. It sounds like Joe Alt is not going to be able to play. I don't think I have heard an update on Rashawn Slater yet, but like and Trey Pipkins missed time in practice. Like they are in a little bit of shambles right now. So we have to really watch that injury report for the Chargers going into this game. That said, yeah, the Chiefs have a lot to work on. And much like, you get a lot more college coaches with like Saban or Kirby Smart or something like that. These coaches love it when their team kind of plays bad, but they still win because they just can go kick these young kids in the butt and like tell them to go. I don't know if the NFL works quite the same way. These are like adults, you can't treat them the same way as you treat college kids sometimes, but I don't think that Andy Reid hates having to work through the adversity a little bit. I think that they are, not happy to be in this spot, but they're happy that they get to go to practice with a whole list of things to work on to try to be better. I think, Hamilton.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point on the injury report, so Alt did not practice, Slater did not practice, Bosa did not practice, Derwin's out, Herbert is out of the walking boot. I feel like he's probably going to try to just seeing what we've seen out of Herbert in the past too. I feel like he's probably going to give it a shot. And if he can't, then they'll go to Taylor Heineke from there. But yeah, to your point on the Chiefs, I think it's also the type of thing, I think there's so much accountability in that locker room too, that it doesn't, I don't know how much Andy Reid has to kick them in the ass. I think, you listen to Mahomes talk, like he's kicking himself in the ass over some of the stuff he did during that game. And there was a lot of, again, it's Patrick Mahomes, the bar, we know what the bar is, and it's as high as it possibly gets. And he's not playing up to that standard right now. And it's really picking his spots, I think, and getting the ball out faster at times. I mean, there were a couple opportunities, there's a 3rd and 2 where Rashee Rice wide open and he passes it up to try to hit something downfield. We've talked about this at points. The one place where you can get him sometimes is, backing up, taking away everything deep, forcing him to take the underneath stuff because he'll get out of it. He won't do it every time. He'll try to hit some shots even when it's not there. He's not always patient with just taking what you're giving him. When he's at his best, he is. But sometimes he gets out of that. And Sunday night was a perfect example of that. I thought there were 4 or 5 throws that would have been really nice gains if he threw it underneath and he passed them up for whatever reason to try to hit a bigger play. So, we'll see how much he learns and grows from that. I'm sure when he watches the tape, it's something that, he's going to kick himself over and really try to be better with this week, just getting the ball out of his hand, letting these guys make plays because it works, especially with Rashee Rice. You just get the ball in his hands. He's going to make some things happen. So again, made enough plays to win the game, made some big plays when he had to. But the consistent body of work there, you just got to be consistent down to down, getting the ball out on time to the right guy. And we know he can do it. I'm sure he will soon. But it's a couple weeks now where, he's had a few tough moments with that.
So I see this game. I see this Chargers game not as much about Chiefs versus Chargers, and it is a little. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is Chiefs versus Chargers, but I do like you just
already looking past the Chargers,
not looking past the Chargers, and we can talk.
He's
about
already in
Chargers.
December. This guy.
Hey, we've talked about that. Hey, one seed Hamilton. Anyways, I'll read this list of limited because pretty much the entire Los Angeles Chargers roster didn't practice or was limited. And limited, by the way, can mean you step on the field for 1 second and then walk off. Some of these limiteds are very, they're very limited. By the way, Joe Alt did not practice. Joey Bosa did not practice. Neither did Junior Colson, Otito Ogbanya, Trey Pipkins, and Rashawn Slater. Limited were Darius Davis, Christian Fulton, Justin Herbert, Hayden Hurst, Khalil Mack, him for just rest, Joshua Palmer, and Jasir Taylor. So this team has a lot of players injured or not practicing or limited, and it could be a long list of players that missed this game. And I'm not going to, and we talked about during James, I'm not dismissing this game, but this really does feel like a game with so many of the injuries on the Chargers side that it can be a lot about this team getting better and continue to take steps. And that can all be done within the context of attacking this Chargers team too. Don't get me wrong. But Hamilton, I'm going to ask you, if you were looking for one thing that you wanted to get accomplished in this game as far as a step towards the right direction and what this offense looks like, I'm going to give you a few options here. Mm-hmm. Would you like to see Travis Kelce involved more? Get back on track in this game? Would you like to see the vertical passing game find its footing a little bit more? or would you like just a mistake-free game from Patrick Mahomes? What of those three scenarios, if you could only pick one, would you like to see against the Los Angeles Chargers?
It's a great question, and I think out of those things, it would be a Travis Kelce game, because I think we know Patrick Mahomes can cut out the mistakes when he has to. I'm not worried about that. We know they can get the vertical passing game going when they need to, but there are legitimate questions of what Travis Kelce has left. He showed some things when he did get man coverage against the Falcons. He had some opportunities. There's the one that got broken up, but he was in position. He had a nice catch versus man. So there were some signs against the Falcons, but I do think that is still a lingering thing. It would be nice to see that put to bed for sure.
Yeah, I think this is a big game for Kelce. Not because he needs it or anything like that. Like, I don't think if this comes out and it's the same as it has been, you don't panic. You still don't panic. You got to wait until January to start to get worried, right? But if I'm looking at where teams that have thrown the ball up, the Chargers haven't played very many good offenses. I want to start with that. But when you go look back and watch the Steelers game and see that Justin Fields, of all quarterbacks, had a lot of success throwing the ball over the middle of the field, and they were able to find space over the middle of the field. That's kind of where you expect Kelce to do the majority of his work. You now go ahead and pull Derwin James from that spot, who not has shut down Travis Kelce, but they have used him in a lot of ways against Travis Kelce, to some success, to some not success. He's not even an option now, right? So this feels like a game that it's a pretty decent matchup for Kelce. I think you add the extra layer on that this new Chargers defense is a lot more aggressive. It's not as soft. It's not as cushiony. So they're going to try to do more things to make Mahomes wrong. But Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at getting defenses, catching defenses. They're doing that and being right anyway. So now you're kind of rotating coverages. You're sending blitzes. You're shifting stuff. That opens up space for guys like Kelce and Mahomes to work together to find the soft spots. And finally, I don't know when, but teams are going to start paying a lot more attention to Rice. Like, at some point in time, Rashee Rice is going to be the number one guy on defense's minds. I think Atlanta even kind of shifted that way a little bit as the game went on some big money downs. So that's going to come. And as soon as that comes, now you have Travis Kelce, who, he's lost a step. We don't have to beat around the bush, but he's still capable of getting open when you give him more space. Like, this just seems like everything's culminating to a game where Travis Kelce has 80 yards and a touchdown, and all of a sudden we're no longer concerned about, oh my gosh, he can't do anything. At least that's what I see in my head right now.
Yeah, and it's it is a great point with the Chargers, how we've seen them play so far, and I am interested to see how they defend the Chiefs, because they faced, as you kind of alluded to, so none of these offenses they face have really been electric, and I think clearly the game plan for the Steelers was, we're going to take away the run. We're going to take away Fields' ability to run. We're going to force him to throw. I think he threw 32 times in that game. And you're right, there were things in the middle of the field. I would expect we see a different structure of this defense against the Chiefs, given, the strengths of that team and what they can do. And it kind of speaks, I see the comment from Brian, if Washington can do that to the Bengals, why didn't the Chiefs? And it's just totally different game plan. When you look at how Lou Anarumo decided to defend the Chiefs, it was very much, let's keep everything in front of us, versus against Washington, he was worried about that run game with their banged up D line. So he was really aggressive at the line of scrimmage, went cover zeros. We saw a few times, which he was not doing to the Chiefs. So, and we know, we know the issues they have with that D line. We saw it with what Kansas City was able to do in the run game. So that was the emphasis. So it was more about that, the game planning, than I think it being symptomatic of anything really wrong with the Chiefs. It's just, this is what teams are going to try to do. And I expect we see the Chargers try to do the same thing. They're going to play back. They're going to try to keep everything in front of them. And it's going to be up to Patrick Mahomes to take what's there.
Well, one thing, the Washington Commanders did a really good job on Trey Hendrickson in that game too.
Yeah.
And Trey Hendrickson was not near the kind of factor that he was in that game against the Chiefs. And that was definitely something. I will say this, Patrick Mahomes on teams covering Travis Kelce. Teams will soon have to adjust, or wide receiver Rashee Rice is going to have 2,000 yards. He's going nuts. That's a quote from Mahomes. And I mean, Mahomes is, very fervent in saying, like, hey, look, Travis Kelce's still getting a lot of attention. They're treating Travis Kelce as Travis Kelce. And the version of making Patrick Mahomes play left-handed is trying to take away the guy that he has the most chemistry, even though he is my age. But I do think yeah, I do think that, like the Chargers are probably going to do a lot of the same stuff that teams have done. Hey, we're going to play deep. We're going to make you play in front. We're not really going to give you explosive plays. We're going to make you sustain drives the entirety of the game. And, the Chiefs, we talked a little bit about this on Monday, haven't thrown over the middle of the field in the intermediate areas as much as you'd like to see them. And, the intermediate game period has just been a little bit up and down, inconsistent. So that's why you've seen them kind of be neutered a little bit and take all these short passes to great consistency, which, hey, look, that's, the offense is moving. But again, hey, getting down in the low red, they don't really have a ton of great answers right now. And so that's another thing that's kind of got to be put together. So if you can force them to drive and, force them to really execute in the low red, that seems to be working too. Hamilton, what gives you pause about this Chargers defense playing against this Chiefs offense?
Pause as far as
what makes you worried?
Makes me worried from a Chiefs perspective.
Yeah.
Khalil Mack has looked very good this year so far. Outside of that, if Bosa and Derwin James aren't on the field, there's honestly it's hard for me to be super concerned about what the Chargers. I do love this new aggressive nature, as Maddie said. They have been way more aggressive. They're disguising looks, I think, way better than they did in the past. I think Jesse Minter's doing an excellent job there, but if you don't have two of your superstars, it's going to be tough to take on an offense like this. I will say I'm interested to see how the Chiefs run the ball this week. I thought Carson Steele, when they ran power inside zone out of shotgun, I thought he looked good. Thought he did well on those plays. When it was situations where the Chiefs had to run and they brought in the bigger personnel and defense brought in bigger personnel, it didn't look as good. So I'm interested to see if there's improvement there this week. But I did think Carson, again, in shotgun running those plays, he seemed very comfortable.
Yeah, and so a thing that concerns me, it's less about the Chargers defense, but it's a little bit more just about the Chiefs offense in general, and it's an any game, but this is a game that I want to see a change, and it's kind of piggybacking off what Hamilton just said there about the short yardage run game. The Chiefs on the year are second in success rate on running play, so they have a positive run play. The second best rate is any team in the NFL. On third downs, they're 27th. In success rate on running the ball on third downs. That's pretty poor, but it gets worse. On third downs this year, the Chiefs are currently converting third downs in general at just under 36%. That's 21st in the NFL this year. That's already a steep step down from last year when the Chiefs dropped quite a bit from what were they at last year? 44%, which was barely top 10 after being 1 or 2 every single year the previous 5 years, right? So they've just been getting worse and worse on third downs is essentially what I'm trying to say here. And this year, it's an even more significant drop than it had been in years past. It's obviously early, and we'll have to see where that comes from. Looking through the numbers, Mahomes hasn't been quite as good on third down as he has been in years past, but the bigger drop is really the run game. And that's kind of crazy because the run game looks good this year. It looks functionally good. Like I said, they're having a lot of successful runs. They're not dynamic, but they're successful. It's just when you get to these short yardage situations, it has kind of gone wonky. And I think Kent talked about it a little bit during our lab or the post-game show. You bring in Leo Chenal to be a fullback and everything looks real cool. And then one of your best or your best run blocking interior offensive lineman gets blown up on the play. That's just unfortunate. Trey Smith's out here having a great game, but then you go into this weird run package on short yardage and he doesn't make the block he needs to, or it's just one guy gives it up. So just the third down play for this team is really what I'm focused on here. Can they get back to the Kansas City Chiefs from 2018 to 2022 where they're converting third downs at almost 50%? It doesn't matter the down and distance or the distance. They are just converting half of them. Or is it going to be a little bit of a slog like it has been this year or last year? You want to take a team that's not getting dynamic plays, you got to stay on the field. You got to continue to march down the field. You can't be 35% on third down and march down the field consistently very often.
Hamilton, I think you made a great point earlier when you just kind of said, it kind of feels like a lot of the issues with the offense currently fall on things that are fixable for Patrick Mahomes. He's not playing particularly well, but I think the play calling has actually been pretty good. I don't have a ton of issues with the play calling, low red excluded. I think some of the low red's been a little, it's fun. Yeah. It's so much fun when it works and you throw a touchdown to Wande Morris, who has more touchdown catches than Travis Kelce this year. But I think I think the play calling's been good. I think I think they've had some play calls dialed up to get the vertical passing game going a little bit more. Mahomes misses that opportunity to Xavier Worthy. I believe they don't wind up getting into the end zone after that. They get all the way down to the low red, and then that things happen. So, I feel like there are positive signs with the play calling. I think, yes, you can get Kelce involved more a little bit here down the road here as defenses start to adjust, and it really does fall on the greatest player in the history of the world to come back to being what he's been over the vast majority of his career. And that's such a great place to be in, I think, if you're the Chiefs, right? Because, I think there's a couple things that are contributing to Patrick Mahomes' inconsistencies, and I think one of them is his uncomfortability with what they got at the left tackle position. I think if Mahomes goes back and watches the work Wanya Morris did, he'll feel better about this next week, and he's got to trust that a little bit. I don't think the interior is great. Don't get me wrong. I think, it just feels like maybe he hasn't had as many chances to step up at times either. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe Joe Thuney's given a little bit more ground than he used to, those kind of things. But I do think that a lot of these things are fixable on this side of the ball. And if it's falling on Patrick Mahomes to fix them, and you see what is capable, and you see flashes of things of promise, he just got to go out and do it. And if he goes out and does it, I gave you 3 things to fix. Pick one. Who's to say they can't pick all? They can't fix all 3 against the Chargers and have a really nice get right game. Give me some offensive players to watch. Hamilton, give me someone to watch on the offensive side of the ball.
Man, where do I go? I've gone with the deep pulls. I've gone with the obvious ones.
Mike Caliendo. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm going to be. I think it is. You hit out that left tackle position, Wanya Morris.
Like it.
We still don't know if it's going to be both Mac and Bosa, but they've been phenomenal to start this year. We obviously know what they're both capable of when they're healthy, which seems like never for Joey Bosa lately. It seems like every week, even when he's out there, there's something going on. But when they're both healthy, they're incredible. They seem rejuvenated too. This year, with all the changes that have gone on there, we talked to Khalil Mack when we were out there at Chargers camp with Up and Adams this offseason, and he is just, he's happy to be there. He's happy with the changes that have gone on, and you can kind of see it out there. He looks a little refreshed. Not that he didn't have a great year last year. Had a 6-sack game. I'm not saying, but you can see there's like a little weight lifted off him when you watch him out there. So I do think I did think Morris played pretty well against the Falcons, and that's definitely something to build off of. But this is another level now, again, especially if Bosa is out there.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that one because we didn't see a lot of Matt Judon versus Wanya Morris. It happened some, but not a ton. So I would assume that Khalil Mack, who is a guy that likes to pick and choose his matchups, especially if Bosa's not playing, you're going to get a lot more Mack versus Wanya Morris. And I thought he played really well, but this will be a bigger test. So that's a good one. I'm going to do it. I usually save it for later in the year in a big matchup, but I think it's time. He talked about it. He put it on himself. We're going with Patrick Lavon Mahomes as the player to watch. Don't like to do it a lot. We kind of reserve it once or twice a year per person. Like Kent does it a lot, I guess, but I don't do it a lot. I picking him this game because he came out and said that I played bad. And I agree. You didn't play very good. Hamilton said it right. He missed some throws underneath. I'm just as frustrated with the throws that he threw poorly, placement wise downfield, even when there was stuff open downfield, he wasn't hitting it very well. I don't think he was processing things cleanly. I think he was late on a lot of stuff. And he came out and said, his mechanics are already a little wonky. This usually doesn't happen until later in the year. It happened early this year. And we can all throw out guesses to why. I thought Mitchell Schwartz, kind of made a pretty good observation that they look pretty good. The mechanics look pretty good to start the year in the first half of the Baltimore game. Something has happened from then till now. Well, he's been under a lot of pressure, in the second half of the Baltimore game, the entire Bengals game. He has been under pressure. If you get that cleaned up a little bit, you go back and watch what happened in this Falcons game. I think he feels more comfortable. I think we might get a little bit of a vintage, I'm still that guy Mahomes game in this one, especially if you get a defense that does try to throw more at him. I don't think you really get Patrick Mahomes by throwing a bunch at him. That's not the normal way to do it. You play rather just soft. You play passive defense and kind of challenge him to be patient. I don't know if the Chargers do that. So I think we might get a vintage Mahomes game in this one.
I'm here game from Patrick Mahomes. Give me Xavier Worthy. It's the I'm here moment.
I get that, but what's the voice?
I don't. It's like
he's trying to do Kermit.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
He's trying.
It feels like a kid's stuffed animal Kermit that got like run over and left in the rain, but like it still kind of works.
I think I have that Kermit. I think I have that one. Anyways, my player to watch is not Kermit the Frog. It's Xavier Worthy. I think the Kelce stuff, we want to see Kelce get involved, but like I really want to see more of a vision for Xavier Worthy and more of an involvement. Like, and I think if he catches that touchdown, if that ball's thrown maybe a little bit across the field a little bit more and he goes and tracks it, that's a touchdown. And we're saying, oh man, how cool is it to have Xavier Worthy on this football team? And look at this offense and all this stuff. Like it could have been one little thing, just like that touchdown. I think make you walk away feeling a lot better about where this offense is sitting even. But I want to see more consistency in the vertical passing game, but I want to see him more involved in the passing game period. And like I think there's the vertical stuff that they're trying to give him some shots down the field, and they've given him at least one every single game to this point. And they've given him some of the manufactured touches behind the line of scrimmage. They are in their reverse bag. You know, they are in their reverse bag with him every single week, which is great, and I love it. I want to see if they can get him involved on a comeback route. You know, try to get him involved in a post. Just try to see if they can expand that route tree a little bit and get him involved a little bit more in the passing game, because I really am looking forward to seeing what he can do in this offense. I think there's been a couple opportunities where he should have got the ball, and he could have got the ball. And that trust and those repetitions have to continue to get built with Patrick Mahomes, and that confidence has to get there. And I know there's a lot going on with Mahomes, in this version of this offense right now that they're still trying to find. But I hope Xavier Worthy gets found out pretty quick, because I'm really excited to see him, involved even in a bigger capacity. I believe there's more on the table for him. We're going to take a break. Yeah, Jasper or Grayson. We're going to
shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Grayson said the next time I was going to talk that we were going to send it to a break. So yeah, I did.
If we're answering questions, responding to comments, can we get the answer to Colby Moore's, which is Matt Swanson? Where did you get your shirt?
This is unsolicited. We're gonna have to hit up Bird Gang and let them know about that. I think I got this. It was like buy one.
The Chiefs beat them in the Super Bowl.
And we did that they did beat them in that Super Bowl. But yeah, Bird Gang, man, they got some absolute bangers out there. And it's like 3 for $70. So yeah, go get you
Not
one.
bad.
Yeah, it ain't
I like
bad.
the pattern.
I'm the only one not wearing a college shirt. Matt Hamilton's got Fordham. Matt Lane's got, what do you got, Matty Lane?
Oh, come on. Don't disrespect
the Dukes, James Madison.
Yeah, don't disrespect the Dukes.
The former Fighting Signettis, and Matt Franklin has Rutgers on, but y'all can't see him. So but he's doing great there. Let's talk about the defensive side of the football. So big questions surrounding whether or not we're going to see Justin Herbert in this game. And I don't, matter significantly the outcome of this game. I don't think Taylor Heineke or Justin Herbert. I don't know who the Chiefs will be prepared for. But I think, I don't know. What are your takes on this offense early on so far for the Chargers? Really wanting to run that football, that's for sure. Hamilton.
Yeah, and that's if you haven't watched much Chargers yet, if you're a Chiefs fan, this is a totally different looking offense than what we've seen in the past. It is. I mean, it's a Greg Roman offense through and through. It is totally built on the run game. A lot of J.K. Dobbins, who's really taken that role. It seemed like it was going to be a 50-50 split going into the year with him and Gus Edwards, kind of like it was in Baltimore at times. But he has seized that role. He looks healthy. He looks great. The Steelers bottled him up a little bit, but he's off to a fantastic start to the year. They've really leaned on the strength of that offensive line, which, again, now we don't know what that's going to look like either. And with the way they've been playing, that's almost as important as having Justin Herbert out there, because they've been so run heavy. If they have both of those tackles, Taylor Heineke can pretty much run the offense that they've been running these first 3 weeks. But if Slater and Joe Alt aren't there, I don't know what they can hang their hat on against this Chiefs defense. That's really, even if Herbert's, if they have Herbert, don't have those tackles, I don't know what this offense hangs its hat on right now, because we've seen Ladd McConkey have his moments in this receiver. We've seen Quentin Johnson step up. He's got 3 touchdowns already this year, has made some big plays for them. But again, part of that's also a product of you run the ball, 65% of the time. When you do throw it, it's going to create favorable matchups for your guys. So if they're in a situation where they have to start airing it out a little bit more, I really don't know what this passing game is going to look like, even with a healthy Herbert.
Yeah, this is another good test for the Chiefs run defense. They've been really good this year. Like when you take away like reverses or end arounds and then Lamar Jackson scrambles, the Chiefs run defense has been excellent this year against opposing running backs. And I don't know if it will be as like dominant as it was against the Falcons, because I think they mentioned on the broadcast like 800 times that the Chiefs were focusing on how to stop outside zone. And like, yeah, they really figured it out for that game. Like they really did. And it Falcons for a loop. The Chargers run game is more varied than what the Falcons were currently running at this point in time. They do a lot more stuff, but then like they kind of do, they get a lot more gap stuff in there. I do think they get into their outside zone when they run it better. So it's just going to be more varied. They're going to have more things to handle. So I will be intrigued to see how the run D holds up when it's a little bit more of a kitchen sink type of run game coming at you from Greg Roman versus what they were coming at with the Falcons. That said, again, it's been really good return on investment so far for the Chiefs. And it was really, I guess, a bonus to see them against the Falcons look so good in that regard, because that was Leo Chenal's lowest snap count on the year. And, not that he is the complete key to this run defense, but he's a big part of it. What he can do as a run defender, whether it's as a backer, as a D tackle, apparently as a player on the line of scrimmage on the edge, kind of changes the game a little bit. And so getting him on the field more, if the Chargers want to live in a little bit heavier personnel, which they do from time to time, I think will be good. So yeah, it'll be a big challenge to the Chiefs run defense, especially if Herbert can't move. That's where it gets real tricky. If Herbert can't move, if he just has to drop back and, pass from the pocket without being able to escape very well, then you shut down the run game, that offense probably starts to look a little scary from their own perspective, not from the Chiefs side.
And it's just so it's such a mystery right now what this team's going to look like on Sunday. And it's Herbert, it's the tackles. It's hard to even analyze this game. So I think you kind of got to operate like Justin Herbert is actually playing in this game. So this is a big one that the entire Chargers staff has paid attention to and really focused on for the entirety of the season, or the offseason. Right, you're trying to win your division, you're trying to win games in your division, you're paying extra attention on how to win your division and beat the teams that are within it. So, do you think that this Chargers offense, tries to kind of break some of the tendencies this week that they've established? Do you see them maybe with some more early passing downs, out of play action to try to catch the Chiefs, especially if, maybe not wanting to, get Justin Herbert on the field as much as they have to, maybe try to generate some quick explosive plays? Do you think that this is a week that the Chargers just kind of, get a little weird and try to mix some things up and break some tendencies, Hamilton?
I think it has to be. And even if everybody was healthy and they had their full complement of guys, I think it has to be. And it would have been, you say it's a mystery because of the injuries. To me, it was going to be a mystery anyway, because, you can be one-dimensional against the Raiders. You can be one-dimensional against the Panthers. Even the Steelers to an extent, with the way that game was going. If Herbert doesn't get hurt and everybody doesn't get hurt, that would have been a much different game. But you can't do that against these Chiefs. So we haven't really seen what this offense looks like against, I don't want to put anybody down, but against a team the caliber of the Chiefs. I think the Steelers have been off to a great start. Their defense looks phenomenal this year. We still don't know what the Steelers are really either. We know what the Chiefs are. This is the first time we're going to see the Chargers against a real, known entity in this league, that we know is an elite team in this league. So I was interested to see that with everybody healthy. I think with all these injuries, they have to throw the kitchen sink at the Chiefs if they want any chance of winning this game.
This is such a tough spot for the Chargers because it doesn't, like, on paper seem like they have the talent on paper to match up with the Chiefs. And, like, I guess you would say if you look through their games up to this point, you'd probably say the same about the Steelers, or at least it's closer to even, but then they have more talent than the other teams. So then the new coaching staff, the mentality that Harbaugh instills in these guys, the way he has them playing very hard and relatively disciplined football is good. And, like, that's going to win you some games against teams that you were evenly matched with or you are better. But when you go up against teams that are simply more talented than you, it gets hard. Then you add in the injury bug, and yeah, you got to get a little weird with it. But the thing is, you go back and look at Harbaugh, even in San Francisco or at Michigan, he kind of does what Harbaugh does. He doesn't, like, change it drastically. I'm not saying they're not going to have wrinkles, and I'm not sitting here saying they won't do something to break some tendencies, but you look at the Harbaugh offenses or defenses or teams, they kind of do what they do, and they're going to win that way, or they're going to keep trying. They're going to keep changing things over year until they, start dominating Ohio State year after year in the Big Ten championship game. Kent. So they just kind of keep building the team the same way. So I'm a little bit more afraid of the Chargers in year 2 or 3 of Harbaugh being there. This year, I think the Chiefs kind of match up with them pretty well. So unless they come out with some really good game plan to catch the Chiefs flat-footed, it seems a little difficult to see how they are going to stress out this defense a ton.
I agreed. I question for you guys now here too. Hayden Hurst and Will Dissly. How many yards do we see the tight ends get in this game? Do you think this is a game where the tight end streak kind of not ceases to exist, but maybe slows down a little bit? Or do you think Hayden Hurst and Will Dissly are going to eat in this game, Hamilton?
No, wait, hold on real quick. Is it Hayden Hurst or is it Tyler Higbee? I just want to be clear for Justin Reed.
Yeah. I was going to make some reference to that too, but yours was better, so I'll leave it alone. But yeah, I mean, we've seen Hayden Hurst have a few moments against this defense, but yeah, I don't know. I do think this is the game that streak kind of gets broken. I don't see them having a huge game. The one thing I did want to say too, we were kind of talking about it last week, and it was interesting to see, the trend, the Chiefs in coverage when they blitz versus when they rush 4. And one of the things that trend really did continue. When they blitzed, Cousins had issues, and right now the passer rating against when they blitz is 64.7, which is 7th best in the NFL. When they rush 4, they're now 2nd worst in the NFL, 109.8 passer rating allowed. So that's something, again, this may not be the matchup that's going to test that fully, but it's still something I'm going to be keeping an eye on in this game for sure.
Yeah, no, and that's big. I mean, again, this goes back to if Herbert can't even move a little bit because he's very good at escaping pressure and stuff like that, and you have some injuries at offensive tackle, and Zion Johnson is having a better year this year, but he hasn't necessarily been great, especially in pass pro, especially against guys like Tershawn Wharton or Chris Jones who have the speed to get on his edge. He's really struggled. So, the Chiefs. Oh, and sorry, I don't know if you know this, Hamilton. Mike Dana lives to play against Justin Herbert of the Chargers. It's like his dream. He has his best games every year against the Chargers. So it's there's a Mike Dana game coming for sure here as well. So if the Chiefs can get pressure on them with 4, that completely changes everything. If not, this might be the game or the time that you actually blitz Herbert. Challenge him to be on the same page with all these wide receivers. A lot of them are younger. A lot of them are newer guys. If Palmer's not able to go the whole game, see what's going on there. See if they're kind of clicking mentally without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to throw the ball up to. So I like the concept of trying to get pressure on Herbert. Hopefully you don't have to blitz to do it, but if you do, it might not be the worst. As far as the tight end thing goes, no, they're catching passes. It's never ending. I think this year when Craig was on the lab with us and we talked about it a little bit, without L'Jarius Sneed there, the Chiefs are having to protect their outside corners, not named Trent McDuffie, a little bit more. You're having to play a lot softer. You're having to get, a lot more cover 3, a lot more quarter stuff, not getting up on the line of scrimmage as much. You're a little bit lighter underneath. So you have guys having to buzz out to the flat that are coming a lot later. They're just not able to be set as close. I don't foresee that changing from what we've seen from Najee Johnson or Joshua Williams, who didn't even play versus the Falcons. I don't think the Chiefs have confidence in their cornerback room to cover guys without a lot of help. I think that's still going to leave a lot of space underneath for tight ends to have success. So that just might be something we deal with all year, but you take that like other teams over giving up the explosive plays, of course.
Speaking of cornerbacks and protecting them, who scares you the most? Wyoder asks. Lab McConkey or Quentin Johnston? Hamilton.
That's a good question because they both have flash this year. I think it's still Johnson just because the size, the athleticism. When he's catching the ball, he can be a matchup nightmare for you. There's a reason, you look at the athletic profile, the physical profile, there's a reason he went in the first round. And yes, he struggled as a rookie. But I don't think that means like that you write the guy off. He's obviously shown some signs of growth already. You saw it kind of happening a little bit in camp too. I think the recent success of rookie receivers, we expect all these guys to come in as finished products. But that's not necessarily the case. We've seen some great receivers who it took 2-3 years for them to kind of become what they are. Devontae Adams, I think, is a great example of that. So, you're seeing those signs of growth in Quentin. And I think the talent, the athletic talents are through the roof. If he can put it together, get his hands together, get the route running up to par, which again, I think he's making strides to do that. I think he's a dangerous player.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Quentin Johnston right now too. Mostly because how they use him. Like, right, they get him going vertical, and I think we talk about it every week. If I'm going to poke a hole in Trent McDuffie's game, it's carrying bigger wide receivers vertical. And then if I'm going to look at the other side, Jalen Watson's always on the boundary. A lot of times you're going to get a Najee Johnson or Joshua Williams on the boundary opposite of that. If you get those matchups, you get Quentin Johnston working vertical against those guys. The speed, the athleticism, and the ability to make really impressive plays downfield are all there for him. So, like, I think there's a chance you come out of this game where Johnston has 2 touchdowns and 150 yards. I don't quite see like Ladd McConkey doing that to this Chiefs defense, right? Where he works, where he wins, and his skill set matched up against a McDuffie or against other guys in the middle of this defense. I don't foresee him being one that absolutely kills the Chiefs in the way I think a Quentin Johnston could.
Yeah, I think as far as like actually changing the game, I think Johnston's explosive ability is the answer. Although I could see the Chiefs having an issue covering Ladd McConkey this week in the slot because that's an area of the field that they've had some struggles as well. So if Trent McDuffie's not kicking inside, we talk about like, hey, more coverage players and needing more coverage players in the middle of the field, be it Shamari Connor in the nickel or, more Trent McDuffie on the inside, whatever it is. Like they need more coverage players along the interior. Justin Reed had a rough day in coverage against the Falcons too. So like everyone's taking their turns having a rough day in coverage in the middle of the field. But I think Quentin's the biggest risk. I think Ladd could extend some drives if you're not careful though. Like I think that's one thing. Defensive player.
Ladd kills you, if Ladd kills you, it's third downs and he just helps extend drives. And like you're going to go back to the end of the game though, and you're not going to be like, oh, we lost the game because of Ladd McConkey. It's just going to be in the moment or during the game. Like, yeah, he'll be going to be a very good, useful player. I just don't think you're going to look back and like, oh wow, that's the guy that lost this game for the Chiefs.
Hamilton, give me your defensive player to watch before I was so rudely interrupted by Matthew Lane. The Matt rankings on this show are pretty simple for me right now. I'll just say that. One doesn't interrupt me and the other's Matt Lane. Anyways, Hamilton, what's your defensive player to watch?
You're not even
I'm looking at another interruption. There we go. This guy, he can't control himself. I'm looking at Drew Tranquil. We love a revenge game. Last year, the one game he played against the Chargers, he had a sack. He hasn't really had that big game yet. I think he's a player who really feasts on his emotions too. Like he's an emotional guy out there. He gets fired up. And I think anytime he's playing his former team, he's going to be fired up. So as I said too, I think we're going to see, I think the Chiefs are at their best when they bring pressure. I think we're going to see him unleashed at Herbert, at a less than 100% Herbert at times on an offensive line that is dealing with all sorts of injuries. So I think I think we see a 2-sack game from Drew Tranquil this weekend.
Spicy. I like it.
That would be nice. Tranquil has not had his strongest start to the year. So yeah, that would be nice to have a good one from him. I referenced it earlier. We're going to go with Mike Dana, who, like I said, routinely has a pretty good game against the Chargers. For whatever reason, he just really enjoys sacking Justin Herbert. I was trying to see if I could quickly look it up and see how many of his career sacks came against just Justin Herbert and the Chargers, because I feel it's got to be a pretty good amount. It just feels like he's always having one of his better games against them. But he's got 17.5 career sacks. I would guess. What do you think, Kent? At least 7 are against the Chargers, the Herbert?
It feels right. You said 17.5. I was going to say 16, but that 7 works too.
Yeah, but anyway, it's just
I'll get it for you.
yeah. Oh, you're
okay,
the
Hamilton.
best. But
Look
yeah,
at
so yeah,
you.
but Mike, very
Climb-
good run defender as
Top
is.
of the mat rankings. Just saying.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing
So
with
he
you.
has 5 career sacks against Herbert and the Chargers of his 17.5 career sacks. So that's pretty good. We're talking
like, yeah, not bad. I
got
felt like it was a little
30%
bit more.
there.
At the
Yeah.
time. It is. It's just funny because like, and when you watch him, like it's some of his best pass rush moves. Mike Dana's not the quickest pass rush winner, right? It's a lot of effort sacks, it's a lot of technique, it's a lot of grinding the play down and kind of cleaning stuff up. Against the Chargers, he'll just hit you all of a sudden with a club rip. You're like, wait, that's in the bag, and it only shows up a couple times. And a lot of times, Justin Herbert's on the receiving end of it. So this is an automatic defensive player to watch Mike Dana versus Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
I'll go with another defensive end who needs to continue to ascend, continue to get better, continue to work, and that's Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Has a big unblocked sack in this game. Look, I think Matthew Lane said it in the post-game show. Yeah, he was unblocked, but how many defensive ends on the Kansas City Chiefs can get to the quarterback at the speed in which Felix Anudike-Uzomah did? So credit to him for that. I think he's got a long way to go. Continue to work though. Continue to get better. To continue to make improvements up there. Because this team needs him to ascend. They need him to continue to find more consistency as a pass rusher. Like I know, I saw some plays getting thrown around about him as a kind of a pressure up the arc. He also got washed from all the way to the hash on that particular play. So like he's still got to continue to work through that play strength as he's turning that corner. The athleticism is definitely popping the more and more that we see him, but he's just got to continue to find consistency. The Chiefs are trying to give him opportunities. They're getting him out on the field at a good clip. They're getting him some good snaps. And this could be a great game with a couple of ailing tackles and potentially backup tackles to continue to get some work in. So I'm going to be watching Felix Anudike-Uzomah in this game, see if we can continue to get this young kid heading in the right direction as the Chiefs try to build towards that 1 seed and, a long break potentially if they can continue to win football games in which the way they are, Hamilton. Anyways, let's predict this game. Game predictions. Matt Hamilton, what do you have for this one?
I think the Chiefs win this one pretty easily. I was going to lean this way, even if everyone's out with everything going on. We've had some weird scores, though, lately. A 22-17, a 26-25. I'm going to go a little bit more conventional. I'm going to say 27-13 Chiefs in this one.
Okay. A little double-digit blowout here, huh?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like it. Matthew Lane.
Oh, my bad.
You didn't want to interrupt,
No, he knows.
He's being patient.
So I've predicted, I've predicted that Mahomes is going to have a big game. I have said that, like, on paper, I don't think the Chargers match up well. And there are a bunch of injuries to, like, their most important players outside of that, right? So, like, you're looking at this, and it's really hard not to pick a double-digit, kind of blowout win for the Chiefs. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs, 26, Chargers 24, because that's what the kind of year this is going to be for the Chiefs. They're going to squeak by for some nonsense where they're going to play really sloppy with a bunch of bad mistakes. And then they're still going to win, and we're all going to be happy they win, and then upset on how it happened. It's going to be a game where maybe Easton Stick has to play and still leads multiple scoring drives just because that's what seems to be happening with the Chiefs this year.
I do think it's just going to be an ugly, close game. Herbert, no Herbert. I just think, first off, the Chiefs are going to play the Chargers twice. And so there's one other game that they're going to have to account for, and you pace yourself. Andy does like to pace himself. Like, one of the most interesting comments I heard from, someone about offensive play calling is, the best ones are able to show as little as they can while winning games. And so if you can hold back as much as you possibly can, as long as you can, keep the clip full, as long as you possibly can, so that you have your best stuff and your best moments when it matters most in January. Well, I think that even matters when you're playing. And I think how the Chiefs have, looked at it historically, they've been very intentional about trying to, win the division, like as every NFL team should. But they take the division as seriously, even though they are a team that is, very clearly the best in this division. So I think they hold some stuff back. I think there are more blocks and building blocks and signs of things to come for this offense. I think Mahomes does not throw an interception. I do think that there's still some struggles for consistency in the offense. Let's go Let's go 23-18. Chiefs score 2 touchdowns, kick 3 field goals, and the Chargers kick 6 field goals. So, like, that's just the most. That's how this thing gets closed. 23-18, Chiefs win.
Ken, you can't get those 4 weeks off in December if you hold things back now. So, I think they're going to go for it.
When you said they played the Chargers twice, first thing I did is went and look and seen if that was their final game of the year, the final divisional game of the year. It's not, but I just wanted to see real quick if that was their final divisional game. Like, hey, according to you, they're not playing them again.
It's Denver.
It is December 8th. So, I mean, they can just sit the last 5 games.
Yeah.
I'll have the 1 seed wrapped up and the last 5 games they can take off. That's fine.
Next week.
They might need that week 18 game because the Bills are an absolute wagon right now too. So both those teams are looking pretty good.
Talking about Josh Allen again.
We'll be talking to you guys after a Chiefs victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. That's gonna do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
We didn't even talk about Kareem Hunt. He might play.